Hi Reddit, I'm 29 and I just buried my mom last week. She was only 61, and her death was unexpected. One moment she was planning her retirement, the next she collapsed in the backyard while watering her tomato plants. The doctors said it was an aneurysm, instant, painless. That's supposed to be comforting, I guess. I wish that was the worst part. My mom was the strongest person I knew. She raised me as a single mother, worked 2 jobs, never missed a recital, and somehow still managed to make our tiny apartment feel like home. I thought I knew her. I really did. But now? I'm not sure I ever did. It started at the funeral, of all places. A modest service, nothing extravagant, just how she would have wanted. I was standing near the entrance, thanking people for coming, when I noticed a woman I didn't recognize. Mid-50s, red hair, sunglasses indoors. She kept to the back and left before the eulogy even started. I wouldn't have thought twice about it, except when I went to collect my mom's things from the funeral home later that evening. There was a note slipped into her coat pocket, folded neatly. No name. Just 3 words, written in clean, looping script. She was mine. That's it. No explanation. No signature. Just that chilling sentence. I stared at it for a long time, and then reread it about 100 more times before I even knew what to do next. I didn't tell anyone, not yet. I tucked the note into my wallet and kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to start unraveling in front of my family. But something about that note lodged itself into my brain and wouldn't let go. Because now, I can't stop thinking about all the little things that never quite made sense when I was growing up. The nights my mom said she was working late but came home looking different. The random trips to conferences that were never on her work calendar. The birthday cards I'd find in the mail from names I didn't know, always unsigned or from a friend. I chalked all of it up to being an overworked single parent. Now? I'm not so sure. And then yesterday, I opened a safety deposit box that she had listed in her will. Inside, I found 3 passports. All with her photo. All with different names. And that's where everything started to fall apart. The moment I saw those passports, my hands started to shake. I didn't even know how to process what I was looking at. They were real, government-issued, not some cheap fakes from a movie. Each one had a different name, a different city of birth, and slightly different dates. But the photo? It was her. Same soft eyes, same dimple on the right cheek, same signature. My mom had 3 legal identities. I sat there in the bank's little privacy room, staring at them like they might somehow explain themselves. One was under the name Elena Green, another said Marissa Hale, and the third, the one I knew, was Donna Kelly, my mother. The only version of her I'd ever known. The safe box also had a bundle of old letters, rubber-banded together and yellowing with age. Most were typed. Some were written by hand in different languages I didn't recognize. And stuffed in the very bottom was a flip phone. One of those pre-smartphone bricks, with a tiny battery that, somehow, still turned on when I pressed the power button. The lock screen showed a photo I'd never seen before, my mom, smiling, arms around a woman I couldn't recognize. They were at a beach, both in tank tops, looking sunburnt and happy. That woman was not anyone in our family. Not a friend, not a coworker. Just a stranger. But the way my mom was looking at her. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't casual. I didn't open the phone yet. I needed to breathe. I brought everything home, dumped it all on the kitchen table, and just stared. My apartment felt colder. Like the walls were suddenly listening. For hours, I didn't move. Just kept asking myself, who was she really? Did I even have the right to dig into this? She's gone now. What am I even hoping to find? But the truth is, something in me already knew. Knew that I couldn't just walk away from this. That night, I finally opened the phone. It had a couple dozen messages saved in its inbox, all from the same number. The most recent one was dated about 6 weeks before my mom died. It said, "Are you ever going to tell her? She deserves the truth." I scrolled down. There were more. Some angry. Some desperate. One simply read, "I'm tired of being your secret." And one, dated 5 years ago, was the one that really made my heart stop. "You promised me. If anything ever happened to you, I'd be the one to tell her." Tell me what? That's the question I can't escape now. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, that photo from the phone flashed in my mind. My mom smiling in a way I'd never seen before, her head resting against this woman's shoulder like they belonged together. That kind of comfort doesn't come from nowhere. It was intimate, familiar, like something that had existed long before I was even born. I needed to know who she was. So I did what anyone would do, I reverse image searched the photo. I cropped it carefully, uploaded it to 3 different sites, and waited. I didn't expect anything, not really. But 10 minutes later, there she was. Her name is Claire Montrose. She runs an art gallery in upstate New York. I clicked through her gallery's website. There were professional shots of her standing beside sculptures and abstract paintings, looking confident and warm. And then, in the About section, there it was, a paragraph that casually mentioned her late partner, Marissa. Marissa. One of the names on my mom's passports. My stomach dropped. My mother, Donna to me, was Marissa to Claire. And Claire had called her partner. Suddenly, so many puzzle pieces snapped into place at once I could barely keep up. The late work nights. The untraceable trips. The unexplained absences during holidays when she claimed she was volunteering out of town. I always believed her. I never once questioned it. She had another life, with another name, and another woman. It made me feel like I'd stumbled into someone else's memories. I sat on my couch, scrolling through old Facebook posts, trying to find any moment where my mom might have slipped. A photo, a comment, a tag, anything. But there was nothing. She had carefully, meticulously hidden it all. I thought about the funeral again. The woman with red hair. The sunglasses. It had to be Claire. She came to say goodbye, and then left without a word. And that note in the coat? She was mine. That was her. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus. I called in sick to work, stared at the wall for hours, trying to make sense of everything. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I booked a flight to New York. I didn't tell anyone I was going. No text to my friends, no heads up to my boss, just packed a bag, printed the gallery address, and got on the plane. Every part of me felt numb, like I was just floating from one decision to the next, but underneath the numbness, something was building. A quiet rage. Not just at my mom for lying, but at myself for never noticing. Claire's gallery was in this small artsy town that looked like a movie set. Cobblestone sidewalks, wind chimes, hand-painted storefront signs. The gallery itself was tucked into a brick building with big windows and soft music playing inside. It smelled like fresh paint and lavender. She was there. I recognized her instantly, even though she looked older than the photo on the phone. Her hair was shorter, streaked with more gray, but it was her. She was standing behind a desk, talking to a couple about a sculpture. When she looked up and saw me, her face went blank. Just nothing. No smile. No warmth. Just silence. I introduced myself by name. I didn't say who I was at first. I wanted to see if she'd recognize me. But as soon as I said my name, her eyes changed. I saw it. The flicker of something, grief, panic, I don't know. Then she walked out from behind the desk and locked the front door. She said one sentence. I was wondering how long it would take. And then she offered me tea. We sat in a quiet back room, surrounded by canvases and sculpture molds. I didn't know where to start. I had a million questions, but they were all tangled in emotion. So she started talking instead. She told me she and Marissa, my mom, had met 15 years ago at an art retreat in Oregon. Said they had an instant connection. That it started as something casual, long distance. But over time, it grew into something real. Intense. Even though my mom had another life. Me. She knew about me. Claire knew I existed. Knew I was my mom's only child. Knew my birthday, my school, my favorite color. My mom had told her everything, except she left out one detail. She never told me about Claire. Claire said my mom used to promise that someday she'd tell me the truth. That when I was older, when it was safe, when the time was right, someday. But someday never came. I asked Claire the one question that had been burning in my brain since I found the note. Why did you write she was mine? She didn't blink. She said, because she was. In all the ways that mattered. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I sat there in stunned silence while this stranger told me about the side of my mom I never got to see, the silly, affectionate, adventurous version. The version who danced in the kitchen barefoot, who painted watercolors at midnight, who once drove 6 hours just to bring Claire her favorite soup when she was sick. That wasn't the woman I knew. But it was my mom. And as Claire talked, one thing became terrifyingly clear. There was more. A lot more. And Claire wasn't sure I was ready to hear it. I sat in that gallery's back room for over 2 hours while Claire told me stories that felt like they belonged to someone else's mother. She described a woman who laughed more, worried less, who kissed her on the forehead every morning like a ritual. My mom had lived a whole different life that she never once let me see. But Claire kept circling around something. I could tell she was holding back. Every time I asked a direct question, were you still together when she died, Or did she ever plan to tell me? Claire's answers got vaguer. She'd shift topics or sip her tea or suddenly remember something about a painting on the wall. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I'd found the passports. That I knew my mom had 3 different identities. That there were letters and a phone in the deposit box. And I wasn't leaving without answers. That's when Claire stood up, walked across the room, and pulled a small tin box from a cabinet. It was beat up and locked with a cheap padlock. She said she'd been keeping it for years. Said she was waiting for the day my mom either told me the truth, or didn't come back. Inside were 27 handwritten letters, all addressed to me. None of them were ever sent. Claire said my mom used to write them after their visits, some angry, some tearful, some just full of ramblings. Sometimes she'd bring the letters with her, thinking she'd drop them in the mail on her way home. But she never did. Claire offered to mail them herself once, but my mom refused, said it wasn't time yet. I opened the top one. The date was from 9 years ago. In it, my mom wrote about how proud she was of me for getting into college. She said she watched me walk across the graduation stage from a distance because she didn't want me to see her with Claire. She said she cried the whole drive home, wondering if I'd hate her if I ever knew the truth. The next letter was worse. She wrote about Dad. Not the man I'd grown up thinking was just a sperm donor, someone she never talked about, no name, no photos, no stories. I always thought she'd just done it on her own. But in this letter, she mentioned him by name. She said, "I never told you that your father wasn't just a one-night decision. His name was Lucas, and I loved him. But he found out about Claire. And he left." I dropped the letter. My ears were ringing. My mother had lied about everything. She didn't raise me alone because she was strong and independent. She raised me alone because she'd driven the man who loved her away with her secrets. Claire tried to comfort me, but I was already standing. I couldn't breathe. I told her I needed air and left the gallery before she could say another word. I walked for almost an hour, holding the tin box like it might vanish if I let go. That night, in the dim light of a cheap motel room, I read the rest of the letters. Each one peeled back another layer of the woman I thought I knew. By the last one, I realized something I hadn't let myself believe until then. My mom wasn't just hiding a double life. She was hiding from someone. The final letter was dated just 4 months ago. My mom must have written it not long before she died. It was short. Way shorter than the others. No updates about life, no apologies, no musings about the past. Just this. "If you're reading this, then I never got the chance to explain. I wanted to, I really did. But time got away from me. Please, be careful if you go looking for answers. Not everyone from my past has let it go. Start with the name, Calden. Don't trust anything that looks easy." That was it. I read it over and over again, hoping I'd missed something, some detail, some hidden message, but it was just that, a warning. And a name I'd never heard before. Calden. Not a common name. Not a casual mention. The way she wrote it, underlined and set apart, it felt deliberate. Like a breadcrumb. I sat on the motel bed, the room lit by a flickering wall sconce, and opened my laptop. I searched everything I could think of, Calden and Donna Kelly, Calden and Marissa Hale, Calden and Elena Green. Nothing solid. A couple of people on LinkedIn, a winery in Oregon, a long-dead criminal case in Idaho, none of it connected. But one article stuck out. It was an old news clipping from 1993. A minor arson case in Sacramento. The name Calden showed up in a single sentence. Authorities questioned one Marissa Hale in connection with the incident but declined to pursue charges. A local man, Raymond Calden, was listed as a person of interest. There it was. Marissa. My mom. And Calden. Together. In the same article. The date? 2 years before I was born. My head was spinning. I started to wonder if I should stop. Maybe Claire was right, maybe I wasn't ready for whatever was waiting on the other side of this. But my mom knew I'd come looking. She knew that if I ever found the truth, I wouldn't let it go. And now I had a new name to follow. I wrote it down in a notebook I'd brought with me, Raymond Calden. Sacramento. Arson. 1993. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, thinking about how little I really knew the woman who raised me. And what kind of life she had lived before she became mom. When the sun came up, I knew what I had to do next. I was going to Sacramento. I drove to Sacramento the next morning. I couldn't explain why I didn't fly. Maybe I needed the time to process. Maybe I needed to feel the distance. Or maybe I was just scared of what I might find. The whole 6-hour drive, my mind kept looping around the same question. Who was Raymond Calden, and why was my mom afraid of him? The neighborhood from the article was in a rundown part of the city. Nothing like the place I grew up in. The houses were tightly packed, paint peeling, overgrown yards. The street from the arson case was still there, barely changed, except for the house that had burned down. It had been replaced by a small duplex with newer siding, like a scar trying to blend in. I stopped at a nearby diner, pretending to be some bored traveler. Ordered coffee I didn't drink and asked the waitress casually if she knew anything about that old fire. She was older, probably in her 70s, and paused for a second before answering. "You mean the one that killed that guy," she said, like it was nothing. I blinked. "Killed?" She nodded slowly. "Back in the 90s. Some kind of squat. Cops found bones in the basement weeks later. Drug stuff, I think. They said it was an accident, but there were rumors." I didn't know what to say. I hadn't seen anything about a death in the article. I asked if she remembered a man named Calden. Her lips tightened. "Ray? Yeah. He was around. Kinda shady. Knew how to disappear." Then she leaned in and added, "And if you're smart, you won't go looking for him. He didn't just vanish. People still talk." That chilled me more than anything I'd read so far. I left a tip, walked out, and sat in my car for a long time, trying to connect the dots. My mom, Marissa, was questioned but never charged. Calden was a person of interest. Someone died. A fire. Drugs. Disappearing people. And now, decades later, my mom warned me not to go looking for him. Which meant she knew he was still out there. I pulled up the public records database and searched for Raymond Calden. Dead end. No obituary. No death certificate. No social security activity. Just a single last known address, a P.O. box in Redding, California. That was enough. I drove there the next day. And what I found wasn't what I expected. The P.O. box was still active, still being paid for. I waited across the street for hours, hoping someone would come by. And then, just after 8 p.m., an older man in a denim jacket and a beanie pulled up in an old pickup. He walked into the post office. Opened box number 114. Took out a stack of letters. And one of them, swear to God, had my name on it. Handwritten. I ducked behind a pillar, heart in my throat. That man had been sending me letters. But I had never received a single one. I waited until the man left. He didn't see me, or if he did, he didn't react. He climbed into his truck, pulled out slowly, and disappeared into the dark. Once he was gone, I walked into the post office, stood in front of the locked P.O. boxes, and stared at number 114 like it might open itself. My whole body felt electric, like something was about to happen even though nothing was moving. But the moment I saw my name on that envelope he took out, everything changed. It was real. This wasn't a theory anymore. Raymond Calden knew who I was. And he was trying to reach me. I had no idea how many letters he'd sent. No idea why I'd never gotten any. Maybe my mom intercepted them. Maybe he'd been sending them to old addresses. Maybe someone else didn't want me to see them. Either way, one thing was clear, he was still watching. Back at the motel, I wrote down every detail I could remember about him. Average height, gray beard, denim jacket, slight limp. The way he scanned the street before unlocking the box. Like someone used to being followed. The next morning, I went back to the post office with a prepaid rental box application. I rented the one directly beneath the box number 214. I told the clerk I wanted mail forwarding and waited until she left for lunch. Then I left a note, folded, taped to the back wall of his box, handwritten. "I know who you are. You've been writing to me. I want to talk. Please. No cops. No tricks. If you're willing, leave a letter in box number 214. I'll wait." I signed it with just my first name. Then I waited. I checked the box 3 times a day for the next 4 days. Nothing. On the 5th day, there was an envelope. No return address. Just my name in sharp, slanted letters. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You shouldn't have come looking for me. She died to protect you from this. Don't make her death meaningless." I sat in my car, shaking. That was it. No greeting. No explanation. Just a warning, like my mom's last letter had echoed. But he didn't tell me to stop. He didn't say he wouldn't talk again. And that's when I realized he was scared. Not just of the past, but of something else. Something still out there. Something that didn't end with a fire in Sacramento. I looked back at the motel in my rearview mirror and felt a knot form in my chest. This wasn't just a story about my mom's secret relationship. Or a fire from 30 years ago. Something was still moving beneath all of it. And I wasn't done yet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with Calden's note in my hand, staring at the words like they were written in fire. "She died to protect you from this." What the hell had my mom gotten into? And more importantly, what did she think would come after me? I needed more than vague warnings. I needed the truth. So I did the only thing I could think of. I sent him another letter. Then make her death mean something. Tell me what she was protecting me from. Tell me why she lied. I'm not afraid of the truth. Box 214. The reply came 2 days later. This time, there were 3 pages. The handwriting was shaky, rushed, like he was writing through fear. He started with this. Your mother was involved in something when she was young. We both were. It started out as activism, college protests, anti-corporate stuff, but it turned into something else. He said they were part of a group, the Lanterns, a name I'd never heard before. Not officially a cult, not officially a gang. Just a loosely connected movement of people who believed they were building a better world. At first, it was peaceful protests, sit-ins, hacking into university systems, exposing shady deals. Then someone lit a building on fire. Then someone else disappeared. He claimed the fire in Sacramento wasn't random. It was a message. Someone in the group had turned. The body found in that basement had been a whistleblower. And according to Calden, my mother knew who did it. But she didn't tell. Instead, she ran. Changed her name. Started over. Had me. And apparently, she told no one, not even Calden, where she was going. For years, he thought she was dead. Until, 15 years ago, a postcard showed up in his mailbox. No return address. Just 3 words. I have a daughter. That was the first time he knew I existed. He tried to find us. Said he even made contact once, near a supermarket. But my mom saw him and panicked. She made him promise to stay away unless something happened to her. He ended the letter with, the Lanterns didn't die. They just got quieter. Richer. Smarter. If your mom is dead, and you're still alive, it means they never found her. Don't give them a reason to start looking again. I sat there, stunned. The activist mother I thought I knew, had been part of a group that possibly killed people? Hid from it for decades? Left behind a man who knew it all, and chose to vanish rather than speak? But there was something deeper in his letter. A thread he didn't fully pull. A phrase he used twice. If they never found her. Which meant there was still someone out there trying. And if they knew about me now? Then hiding might no longer be an option. I spent the night rereading Calden's letter until the words started to blur. My mom had built a life around silence, secrets, and survival. And she did it all, apparently, for me. I used to think I was just the center of her world, now I realize I was her hiding place. But here's what finally broke me. The next morning, I went back through her things. Notebooks, photos, anything she'd kept locked away. And in the bottom of a dusty shoebox I hadn't touched yet, I found a key. It had a tag attached with a strange number, 4612 AM. It didn't look like a house key. More like a storage unit. I drove to every storage facility within 50 miles. On the 4th one, the woman at the desk looked at the tag and nodded. That's an old-style unit. Been there forever. I gave her my ID. She didn't ask questions. She handed me a clipboard and buzzed me through. Unit 46 to 12 was tucked in the back row. I unlocked it with the key, heart pounding, every muscle in my body tense. Inside was a small metal cabinet, an old trunk, and a sealed envelope taped to the wall with my name written in her handwriting. I opened the envelope first. Inside was a note that read, "If you found this, then I didn't get the chance to tell you in person. You weren't supposed to know. Not like this. But you're smarter than I gave you credit for. This was always your choice to make, whether to live in the truth or leave it buried. What's inside the trunk is everything. But once you open it, there's no going back." My hands were shaking as I popped the trunk's latch. Inside was a stack of files as names, photographs, lists of bank transfers, burner phones, maps with red pins, coded messages I couldn't begin to decode. Surveillance photos. Some of my mom. Some of me. Someone had been following us. Recently. And then, beneath it all, was a folder labeled Lantern, Ashfall. Inside, my mom had written a full account of everything. How she joined the group, how it slowly morphed into something dark, how she and Calden had tried to stop them, how the fire in Sacramento had been the breaking point, and how she'd been carrying evidence with her ever since. Evidence that could bring people down. Powerful people. Hidden people. And she never used it. Not because she was afraid. But because she had me. And now, she was gone. And it was my decision. I could take this all to the police, to the press, to anyone who'd listen. But Calden was right, they never stopped watching. By opening that trunk, I'd lit a match. I spent the next 2 weeks scanning and copying everything. Hid copies in places even I won't write here. I wrote a statement, a timeline, names. If something ever happens to me, it'll go live. Everywhere. All at once. I haven't decided what to do next. I still don't know who I can trust. But I know this. My mom didn't die just watering her tomatoes. She died looking over her shoulder, waiting for the past to catch up. But now? It's looking at me. And I'm not running. Not anymore.